Live from the News Center, this is 7 on your side at 6.
First at 6, family and friends in Charleston held funeral services for 2 of the 9 people killed in last week's deadly shooting at Emmanuel AME Church. A self-proclaimed white supremacist armed with a gun and hate in his heart walked into the Bible study at the historically black church, sat down for nearly an hour, and then opened fire on the pastor and his church members. Tonight, we're learning more about the 2 victims, the shooting victims laid to rest this afternoon, and we're hearing from one of their relatives. 7 on your side's Gordon Dill is in Charleston tonight. He is joining us now. Gordon.
Yeah, and speaking of now, just a few moments ago, right after we talked to you at 5:30, we heard the roar of a motorcycle processional, police officers coming just past us as the remains of Reverend Pinckney were taken back inside this AME church where he was killed 1 week ago, followed inside by the families of all 9 of the people killed here. Speaking of those families, you mentioned, Amy, there were 2 of those victims laid to rest today. The first of them, a 45-year-old woman named Sharonda Coleman Singleton. Coleman Singleton was a Goose Creek track coach. She is survived by 3 children, much of that family back here in Charleston tonight to continue the mourning process. Also today, 70-year-old Ethel Lance was buried. She was a member of this church for 30 years before she was killed inside. You mentioned we did speak to family members. Here is Ethel Lance's daughter.
My mother was a strong woman. She's in a better place now, but we all trying to get there.
So looking forward, we are talking about Reverend and Senator Clemente Pinckney, who will be memorialized in a funeral at the TD Center just about a block away from this church tomorrow, starting at 11 o'clock in the morning. But again, the news here right now is that as we speak, inside that same church where 9 people were murdered just over a week ago, the families of those people are inside saying goodbye to the man who ministered to them inside for many years. That's why there is such a crowd out here tonight. The hearse that brought the casket here is still outside. That is where it will remain as this observation and moment of memorial for Reverend Pinckney continues for the next few hours. So we will send it back to you. But tonight at 7 o'clock, if you tune in then, we're going to show you some more of those pictures as this morning, as this community coming together continues outside a church that was a tragedy and now a symbol of hope. Amy?
All right, Gordon, thank you. Tonight there is a statement from the family of the confessed gunman in last week's deadly church shooting. Dylan Roof's family members say they understand many people have questions about what happened, but they say right now they would like to recognize the 9 people killed in the attacks and allow the victims' families time to grieve. Over the weekend, family members will also hold funeral services for 5 of the other Emmanuel AME church shooting victims. Saturday, 54-year-old librarian Cynthia Hurd will be laid to rest. Also Saturday, a double funeral will take place for 87-year-old Susie Jackson and her nephew, 26-year-old Tawanza Sanders. Then Sunday, the funeral service will take place for 49-year-old Reverend DePayne Middleton Doctor and 59-year-old Myra Thompson. And a family member is saying funeral arrangements are still pending for 74-year-old Reverend Daniel Simmons Sr. Happening tomorrow, thousands of people will be wearing blue and white, showing support for the Charleston victims and their families. At Extreme Tees in Simpsonville, they're trying to keep up with demand for blue and white t-shirts. The shirts are being sold at cost, and the donations are going to the Charleston victims' families. People who are buying them say that they want to show support all over the state.
If I say too much, I'll get real weepy because it's such a strong sense of coming together, and that's what we all need to do.
Extreme Tees has such a back order on the t-shirts. They say you may want to wait till next week if you do want to buy one there. They say they will continue to sell them. For Blue and White Friday, you can do a number of things. You can wear any t-shirt that has the blue and white colors. You can also display a state flag. The blue and white ribbons could be placed on your car, or you may make your Facebook profile picture a South Carolina flag or a palmetto if you want to get involved. Tonight, as the Confederate flag hangs on a pole outside the State House in Columbia, the tug of war is continuing in the debate to take it down. All week we've heard from people on both sides, but today the commander of the Sons of Confederate Veterans finally broke his silence. Capitol reporter Robert Kittle was there and has this closer look.
With lawmakers talking about taking the Confederate flag off the South Carolina State House grounds, the Sons of Confederate Veterans have been pretty quiet. But today, the group's commander wanted to get their side out.
To remove this flag, to remove this monument, it will dishonor not only white Confederate soldiers, but it will dishonor black Confederate soldiers.
The effort to move the flag got rolling after this picture came out of Charleston shooting suspect Dylan Roof with a Confederate plate on his car. And what's apparently his racist manifesto was found online.
That flag had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Dylan Roof, he was carrying the flag, so he obviously got some of his point of views from them.
Yeah, I have at least 7 Confederate ancestors, including a great-great-grandfather that was captured at the Battle of Spotsylvania, and 3 of his brothers were killed.
Tom Clements is carrying a sign in front of the State House asking drivers to honk if they want the flag to come down. Even though he's a great-grandson of a Confederate veteran, he thinks the flag should come down.
The basis was totally the state's rights to protect slavery, to recover their slaves. It was 100% about slavery. So I find that a lot of the neo-Confederates, as I call them, have not read the key document that shows that they were fighting to protect slavery and their right to have slaves.
The SCV says they'll fight efforts to move the flag, but won't reveal their plans. In Columbia, Robert Kittle, 7 on your side.
One of the biggest supporters of the Confederate flag has been former State Senator Glenn McConnell. He's now the president of the College of Charleston. He's also a devoted Civil War reenactor. He surprised a lot of people today by announcing that he now agrees that the Confederate flag should be removed from the State House grounds. Sunblock, sunglasses, AC, that seems to be the recipe lately anyway. Any cool downs on the way? Let's get over to 24/7 Chief Meteorologist Christy Henderson.
All right, Amy, we do have a cool down on the way, but for the time being, we're holding on to that hot weather. And a lot of folks check the temperature on their phone. Don't forget, we've got a 24/7 weather app you can get and kind of keep track of the misery, if you will, but it will get better. Right now, we're mainly looking at mid-90s in the upstate, 95 in Greenville, 96 in Anderson. Gaffney's at 95. It's 85 degrees in Asheville. No rain to cool anyone off there this evening, but we do have a dip in the upper level winds that's developing tonight, and by this weekend, it's going to pull in some milder air for us. We'll talk more about what you can expect in your 5-zone forecast coming up in a few minutes. Amy?
Christy, thanks. In Henderson County, deputies need your help finding a man they say robbed a bank. Deputies say it happened this afternoon at the First Citizens Bank on Brevard Road in Etowah. Have a look. These are surveillance photographs that deputies sent to us. They say the photos show a man with short, dark hair, the beard, the sunglasses. He got away with an unknown amount of cash, and they say he's 5'8" to 5'10" and was last seen in a green Jeep Wrangler with no doors and a black top. He was with another man headed west on US 64 toward Transylvania County. If you have any information about who this might be, call the Henderson County Sheriff's Office. It's been nearly 3 weeks since a Pendleton toddler vanished without a trace, and almost daily on Facebook you're asking me, is anything new on this case? Well, we got some answers today. 1-year-old Liana Wright's family is saying they're holding out for some answers. And with the Anderson County Sheriff's Office coming up empty so far, the toddler's family is now pushing for the FBI to get involved. Little Liana was last seen on June 6th at her mom's apartment on Cherry Street in Pendleton. She was wearing a white t-shirt at the time. Since then, the Anderson County Sheriff's Office has conducted widespread searches for this toddler. People from the community have also pitched in, and they're handing out flyers.
The only thing you can do now is just hope. Hope she's still out there somewhere and hope they're able to find her safely.
Liana's family wants an even bigger effort, so they started a petition calling for the FBI to join the investigation. It already has more than 3,000 signatures, and that was just overnight. We talked to the Anderson County Sheriff's Office. They say they're doing all they can to find Liana. Have one more look tonight at this 1-year-old little girl. We want to remind you there is a $2,800 reward for information in the case. If you know anything, you're urged to call 911 or Crime Stoppers at 23 Crime. And we're following up tonight on 7 on Your Side. This man, Jeremiah Johnson, is going to spend the next 40 years in prison for a deadly 2012 kidnapping and armed robbery. The victim was an Anderson County businessman. Johnson is one of 4 suspects that's charged in the case. Prosecutors say evidence shows that Johnson played a role in the disappearance and death of C.J. Patel. That gas station manager left the Exxon gas station on Clemson Boulevard that he and his family ran on a night back in July of 2012, but he never returned. Patel's abandoned car turned up 2 days later in Oconee County, and then about a week later, investigators found his body in the woods near the Lake Hartwell Dam. Next on 7 on Your Side at 6 tonight, a Supreme Court victory for a key part of President Obama's Affordable Care Act. What that means for tens of thousands of you here in South Carolina, plus reaction from Governor Nikki Haley. And later, it is a tragedy you hear about every summer, children dying inside hot cars. Just last week, a child died in South Carolina. Tonight, a new tool that upstate officials hope will help them with this ongoing problem.